Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. My guest on today's episode is California-based theater and film director James Vasquez. Join me now as I go on the aisle in a conversation with James.
Central Indiana. Wish TV is now live on YouTube TV and Hulu Live, offering more hours of local programming than any other station. Search for Wish TV or look for CW8 on both YouTube TV and Hulu Live to find us. Watch local news, sports, and lifestyle shows live from Wish TV. You can still catch Wish TV free over the air or stream it live on wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile apps. Wish TV, available in more places for the latest news, weather, and sports.
Hello, James. What a pleasure it is to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much, because I know right now you're in the middle of a rehearsal. And so let's get to it. I know you have limited time.
Absolutely. Hi, Tom. Thank you for, it's so great to be with you today.
Oh, listen, the delight and pleasure is all mine. So you are a guest director at the Indiana Repertory Theatre, and you are here to direct a musical that was on Broadway. I can't remember the year. I saw it on Broadway, and I also saw a national touring company here. Come From Away.
Come From Away. Yeah, I think it opened on Broadway in 2017, I believe. But it originated actually in my hometown of San Diego at the La Jolla Playhouse.
Did it? Okay. And
yeah.
I did some research on you, and I see that the Globe in San Diego is your artistic home.
Yes, yeah. The old Globe has been, I've been very lucky to be able to hang out at the Globe for honestly my entire life. I started there at a summer camp when I was 12 years old, and it was for high school students, but I had a theater mentor who called the Globe on my behalf and said, hey, we've got this kid. He's not quite in high school yet, but you should meet him and you should let him into your summer program. So they made the exception, and I found myself hanging out at the Globe when I was 12 years old. I saw my first Shakespeare productions there. I was very lucky to then be cast in a show at the Old Globe when I was 15. And it just sort of continued from there. And now I am a resident artist at the Old Globe Theater.
That is just fascinating. Okay, but let's back up. You are Mexican American like me, and we had a little chat before we went on so that I could qualify myself, right? And I found out that English is your first language, and we're similar that way.
Yes.
But I'm really I live in Indianapolis, which is, of course, you're in Indianapolis now. Is this your first time performing here or playing Indy?
This is my first time. It's one of the beautiful things about what I do as a director is I get to visit all over the country and visit places that I had never been before. And when this came up, not only was I very excited about the opportunity to direct Come From Away, but to visit Indianapolis, which I've had many friends that have worked here and just raved about it. So I'm having a great time.
Oh, cool. So what did you know about the Indiana Repertory Theatre?
Well, first and foremost, that they just do really, really lovely work that celebrates the human, and the human spirit.
Yes. And so the reputation is national because I know that many people who come through here, designers, directors, actors who've worked at IRT over the years, people talk, right?
Yes.
And so word of mouth has always been generous about IRT, has it not?
Very generous. And, I have to say, they weren't lying. I in the couple weeks that I've been here, I don't know that I've felt as supported or cared for It's just been fantastic.
Yeah.
Before I even make requests, they fill them. So they sort of are in my brain a little bit. It's been
Well,
great.
I've been covering the arts locally for almost 50 years, and I hear this consistently because I cover performers from all over the country who come here. It's a little known, it's becoming increasingly, people are becoming more and more aware, and I hope I've been spreading the word that this is somewhat of an entertainment hub now. We have some great venues. The Palladium. Michael Feinstein is the artistic director. We have
Oh,
the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. Jack Everly was one time a conductor on Broadway and conducted ballet with the American Ballet Theatre, and on and on and on. We've got a dance company that one of the founders, or one of the former artistic directors, was an acolyte and studied and danced with Martha Graham. So we've got all that going on here.
yeah. Well,
And
and one of the things that I've been really impressed by is the show currently running here at IRT is a play called English. And
yeah.
I am so impressed that they are bringing work and stories here to IRT that celebrate communities and communities that may not be the main community here in Indianapolis, and really celebrating the heart and stories and lives of those communities.
Well, the work they've been doing here for a while, I can tell you, it's right up your alley. I've read your bio and I know
Yes.
your work, and I know that the stuff that they've been putting on, they're in the vanguard of diversity and inclusiveness on stage and behind the stage. And, I'm just very thrilled that, they put their money where their mouth is in terms of that whole
Yeah,
thing,
it's really wonderful.
And so when I heard that a Mexican American director was going to be doing this show, I was excited to, I immediately asked him if I could sit down with you. So here we are.
Thank you.
So, I listened I checked you out, and there's some great YouTubes out there. And, I read stuff about you, and I watched one video, and it was a presentation you did with your colleague who is a playwright. He too is Mexican American. I'm blanking on his name.
I believe probably Jose Cruz Gonzalez.
Yes, and
Yes.
you directed two of his plays?
Two of his shows.
Go
Under a
ahead.
Baseball Sky and American Mariachi, both of them world premieres. And what's been really lovely is not only getting to partner with Jose, but being able to be on the ground floor of those stories and really help him develop them and bring them to life. And American Mariachi, I was asked last night to name two of my shows that I'm most proud of. And I think the very first one I mentioned was American Mariachi. And this beautiful story about a young Latina girl whose mother is suffering from dementia, and whose father is a mariachi player. This young woman discovers that when the music starts to play, her mother starts to come to life. So this young woman forms an all-female mariachi group in the early 70s at a time when only men played mariachi. And this play has now been produced all over the country. It's had upwards of 20-some productions. And to know that I was in the room with Jose when he was writing it and creating it, and now many, many Latina actors across the country are getting to step into these roles and tell this story. It is a gift and an honor.
Oh my,
That's been really wonderful.
So it has legs, right?
Yes, yeah.
Is it headed for Broadway?
I don't know that I don't know that that'll find its way to Broadway. But again, I did hear last night that their next season, there's a local theater somewhere in the area that has American Mariachi on their schedule. So
Wow.
it's coming to the Indianapolis area.
Yeah, wow, that is fabulous.
Yes.
Well, listen, if Buena Vista Social Club can make it in New York, I think the time has come. People are interested in Latino stories. Don't you
Yes.
agree?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's always time. I don't, I think that
sure.
the stories are always relevant. And something beautiful that Jose does in his work is, even though the lens does sort of zoom in and focus on this Latino family, um, it is so universal at its heart.
Yes.
And and so anybody can come and be moved by it and enjoy the story.
Well, just the topic matter itself, listen to, my mother died of dementia, so I'm very familiar with that. And of
Yes.
course, growing up biculturally, I've always loved mariachi music. I've been to Mexico. I've been really aware that there are more and more female mariachis. Recently, Mariachi de Herencia from Chicago, it's a a foundation started them, and there were females in that group, and now it's just not uncommon anymore.
Oh, it's very typical at this point that
Hmm.
there are not only female specific mariachi groups, but the women are now playing with the men, and which is really wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's about time, right? And that's a tough culture to crack on the machismo and all, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So now, but I need to know about your background. Tell me about your Mexican American heritage. Where are you from? Who are your people?
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is my father was born in Durango, Mexico,
Hmm.
and came to the States when he was about 2 months old. And my mom was born in Santa Maria, California, which is in Central California. And they,
Was she Mexican American?
she was not. She is,
Okay,
she's a beautiful, beautiful Caucasian
I understand. Yeah.
woman, and but together they were the love of each other's lives, and a beautiful created a beautiful home for me and my two younger brothers. And my dad is a poet, and his work has been very inspired by the Chicano movement and the Mexican his Mexican upbringing. And when I was little, I feel very spoiled. My I was introduced to the arts immediately because my father would host artist gatherings at our apartment when I was little. So at a very early age, we had poets in our living room. We had dancers who were in our backyard creating
Wow.
dances. We had people in the kitchen painting, and so there
So
was
kind of
all.
like a salon.
It was fantastic, an art salon, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
and so all my life, I've had artists around me and diversity around me. Artists of from different backgrounds and of different professions, and so and I grew up primarily with my father's family. So the Mexican culture was something that we sort of led with. However, being born in the early 70s and being first generation on my father's side, there was a little bit of the trend to not speak Spanish.
Yes.
And so when I was little, my father spoke only English to me.
Yes.
Now, my two younger brothers, he spoke only Spanish to them till they were about 5, because he then thought, oh, what am I doing? So it's funny, my two younger brothers are fluent and have these brilliant accents. And I, unfortunately, take after my mom a little bit.
Yeah, so
And-
you and I are what's called no sabo.
Yes, yes, and I will say I have been blessed to be able to guide a lot of Latino stories on stage. And so in the last 10 years, have really been taking every opportunity I can to immerse myself in the language. I'm still not as strong as I would like to be, but every day I find myself getting a little stronger, and any opportunity to, I do speak.
One more thing we have in common, James. Do you prefer James? Is that your full name? Do you have a
My full name,
nickname?
thank you for actually asking that. My full name is actually Pedro James Vasquez.
Oh, James Vasquez.
And when I got out of drama school, I went to the Juilliard School in New York and studied drama. And when I graduated, this was in the early 90s, and I was being submitted for a lot of Latino roles. And I would walk into the casting office and they would look at me and say, you're not a Jose, can we have you read for Bob? And so my agents said to me, we gotta drop the Pedro. We gotta get rid of the Pedro. And
Sure.
they suggested that I go by Peter James. And that to me just was like, I don't know who that person is.
Yeah.
And so I had a long conversation with my father because I really struggled with it. I was Pedro my whole life. And my dad said, James is still your name. So we temporarily put the Pedro on hold, and professionally, I started going by James Vasquez.
Okay.
In recent years, I have begun introducing myself once again as Pedro James Vasquez.
I love that.
And using it as much as I possibly can. But here's a funny little sidebar about that. I grew up, I don't know where I got this, but I grew up thinking that James was a great grandfather of mine. Again, I think I created this story that I was named after someone on my mother's side. I found out about 10 years ago, my dad, when he writes his poetry, had a pen name, and he would sign everything James St. John. And so I was actually named after my dad's pen name. So in a beautiful sort of way, James is my pen name, is my artistic name, as my father used. So fun little story.
And once again, we share so much in common, and that's a whole show in itself. Assimilation, identity. You brought up English. I reviewed it, and it was so emotional for me because I related to it because I'm in the middle, like you. I am learning Spanish. At 78, I've decided a couple years ago, stop talking about, quit blaming your parents. Oh, they didn't teach us. Well, at some point, that's on me. I'm a smart guy. I can surely learn Spanish. I just have to get off my ass and do it.
Yeah, and it's not too late. It's never too late.
Is I moved into it's primarily a Mexican immigrant neighborhood, and I've been here for 5 years, and all my neighbors are from Mexico and Honduras and Nicaragua. And so every chance I get in their panderia, Indianapolis has exploded with immigrants from all over Latin America. I'm so joyful that I finally get to connect with my people. And
yes.
I'll never be, and you probably relate to this, I love what Eva Longoria, who just learned Spanish within the last 10 years. She says, I am 100% Mexican. I am 100% American, and that feels good for me.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Do you struggle though? Did you struggle for a long time with identity issues?
Oh, 1,000,000%. Again, because I favored my mom, I was a strawberry blonde until I was about 5.
But there are strawberry blondes in Mexico.
There are. You're absolutely right. But
blondes and blacks and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it started shifting to dark brown, and of course now it's gray and falling out, but that's just life.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did, because often when I was young, I would introduce myself as Pedro, and people would look at me and go, "What's your real name?" And there was often comments when I was younger, when I was with my father, who is very Latino looking. People would stop and ask me if that was my father.
Yeah.
And if I knew the man that I was with. And so there, and then of course the story I told about, getting out of drama school and the industry telling me, no, you can't be that person. You need to be somebody else that looks whiter.
Oh my goodness.
But what's been beautiful is in my directing career, being welcomed in to direct these shows about the Latino community and never being questioned.
Well, there's that old litmus test that I'm sure that you got when people found out that you had a Mexican background. Well, you don't look Mexican.
Right. Yes.
How come you don't speak Mexican? You mean Spanish?
Yes. Yes.
Those sorts of things, it's just so unnerving to have to encounter that. I still get that. You talked about the color factor, it's so complicated. I'm also an actor and a model, and I've been doing it a long time, but I am considered in the industry, and I'm sure you've heard this, ethnically ambiguous.
Yes.
Because in the summer, I get really, really dark, which I love, but, right, I'm kind of light-skinned, and some people even think I'm Asian. I can pass for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, my mom and dad, when I was little, whenever we hit summer, used to call me the little brown bear, because I would turn this lovely. I looked like my father during the summer and my mom during the winter.
So tell me what about your Mexican side that you feel that is in your soul or your blood that informs the work?
I think the memories that I have growing up are all about family and are all about community, and holidays when we would get together. My grandmother's house would have 30 people in this living room. All my cousins.
This is the Mexican side you're talking about.
This is the Mexican side, yes. Okay. And my tias and my tios and all my cousins, and the celebration of just being together, and the music that would start playing, and the cooking that would happen. And of course, those were just sort of the icings on the cake, because what that really did was sit us all down together to sing or to eat and just be together.
Yeah, and then overall, all of that, the passion and vitality.
Yes, absolutely. And I
think drama.
I mean, there's always, the fire, there's always fire bubbling underneath. But I think that really helped build me into the adult human that I am, who likes to celebrate regardless of where you're from, who you are. My grandfather used to say, my abuelo used to say, remember who you are. And I know that's not a phrase he made up. It's a common phrase, but it's something that he passed on to my dad. Remember who you are. That my dad then passed on to me. And I think I never walk through the day without honoring those roots of community and joy, and like you said, a little bit of fire.
Do you have a statue of the Virgin Guadalupe in your home?
Not in my personal home, but in my dad does. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have one, and when we started this conversation, I told you I collect stuff from Mexico. Have you been to Mexico?
No. My father and I have been talking about a trip, and
No, you've got to do it, James.
we're gonna,
You got to do an Alex Haley trip.
I have a production of a show, which unfortunately I can't speak about right at this moment, but there's some bubbling talks about taking it to Mexico City.
Oh,
and I have every finger and toe crossed that
I
happens.
hope that happens for you.
Yes.
I mean, considering everything that we've talked about thus far, I mean, I mentioned Alex Haley. When I went there, I really had sort of a spiritual experience. It was clear, but it reminded me that I'm an American, but I felt at home, and they knew immediately when I opened my mouth, my poor Spanish, but they gave me a pass, and it just made them. They said, a lot of Americans like you come here and they act like they're better than us, or they're just tourists and they don't really care about the culture of the people. They just want to come here for whatever reason, but they love it if you try, and if you honor and respect where you came from, that means a lot to people who live there, And
Yes,
I think so your work, okay, so let's talk about Come From Away. What an ideal a piece for you to direct, considering that, your sensibilities about community.
I'll be really honest, even though I said earlier, it originated and premiered in my hometown at La Jolla Playhouse. I never saw it. It was there, and my schedule never allowed for me to actually go and see it. And then while it was on Broadway, I was in New York a handful of times and never went to see it. So people have asked, at Indiana, are you doing it very traditionally, or are you creating your own sort of Come From Away? And my honest answer is, I don't know. We're building our Come From Away, and I'm sure there are some aspects to it that are similar to the original, and then many aspects that are going to be fresh for those audiences that may have seen it previously. But you're right. It is, now that I'm knee deep in it, it is sort of the ideal project for what I like to do. It is a celebration of the human heart. It is a celebration of humanity and of culture, and of different culture. Through this hour and 35-minute story, we celebrate folks from all over the world and uplift their stories.
The interview that I mentioned earlier, the one with you and your colleague, and I think it was presented by the Globe, was it not?
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, it was fascinating, but you talked about, so you have a lot of credits. You've done a lot of musical theater revivals, another one of my passions, and so in a way, this musical isn't that old, so it's not like in the realm of like Oklahoma or something like that. But you're still reviving it. It's been a while. So how are you? Okay, and I think you said that what you like to do is you like to put these, give them. I can't remember how you said it. You talked about putting them in the present. Did you say that or something like that?
I think with a lot of revivals and a lot of golden age musicals in particular, which I have done, Damn Yankees and other shows, Man of La Mancha. They were written at a time where some of our sensibilities were different, and some of the ways we spoke and words that we use were acceptable then, that our society has shifted a bit today. And I think it is always important, without changing the words, without changing the lyrics, to honor the original intent of the story, but finding a way to bring it into a modern audience and finding a way to honor today's world and today's sensibilities while still honoring that original intention.
You know, as an aside, as a reviewer, it's always tricky for me to keep things in context, but it is still very loaded. And when you take an old musical, and I'm trying to, you know, the musical I'm going to bring up, but there's a scene in there. There are a lot of, sometimes there's stereotypical characters from the past.
Yes.
It's like the way it was back then. And yet, if you present it, there have been places where people have been really offended. They don't see it as history. They see, well, even if it is history, why can't you just leave it out because it offends me now? And so it's a difficult thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. And I think I always tell myself one of my responsibilities as a director is to challenge our audience, but to not alienate them. You know, I never want to push something so far that it sends somebody out of the theater and makes them not want to come back.
Yeah.
But absolutely, do I want to send them out of the theater thinking? And I always say I hope to create an act 3. And that act 3 takes place in the car ride home. And it has the people, the audience, leaving and on that car ride home, having a conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe thinking, that's a little different than I remember, or that's making me think, or that made me uncomfortable, but why? And then hopefully getting out of the car and stepping into the world a little different.
Yeah. You know, a few years back, I haven't heard it for a while. I don't know when I'm just generally speaking, I recall at least 10 years ago, I was hearing this a lot. Theater's dead. Theater's dead.
Oh, gosh.
So from your perspective, is that still true?
I don't think that was ever true. I mean, I think there are times that society is struggling a little bit with economics, and it might make it a little harder to afford tickets. So I think that's a whole other issue, is how do we make theater affordable, and how do we make theater affordable for communities that may not be always felt welcomed into the theater. How do we make it accessible so that they can feel
both
welcome?
of those things, affordable and accessible?
Yes. Yeah. But as far as theater being dead, I mean, that's never going to happen, because I'm very lucky that I get to be in this beautiful 600-seat theater here at IRT. But let me tell you, if we needed to, we would pick up our chairs and we would take them out to the park across the street and we would do the show.
Yeah.
And so I think theater and storytelling can pop up anywhere at any time. And so it's never going to die. It's never going to die.
And then there are courses, I think there's a lot of discussion, and I certainly talk about it because it's one of my favorite topics now, all this fear about AI and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that theater will always be able to promote the fact, yeah, folks, but this is live. It cannot be replicated or duplicated in any way.
Absolutely. And I was just I was reading a very short little blurb on a theater website a couple weeks ago that said theater in London is actually at its highest it's been in a long time. The support for theater in London and in the West End it's booming in a little bit of response to not only the pandemic, people wanting to come back together, but also in a response to AI. And so in a weird way, I think this AI movement it is uplifting theater.
Well, I think everything, technology, you know, look what like the pandemic wrought, the idea that, you know, you couldn't leave your home. And so people started signing on to Hulu and network Netflix and
Yes.
Apple, and streaming became the norm. And then we got back into the theater, and people still do both. I do. There's a lot of good work on streaming because of the
Of course.
COVID. It brought some
Yes.
of the best people in film and theater to television
Yeah.
because that was the only way they could work.
Well, and going back to the idea of accessibility, there are starting to be more pro shots or filming of theater pieces that are now becoming available on, for example, Come From Away was filmed and released during the I forget when it was released, but you can see the Broadway production on Apple TV.
Yeah. Well, they've always had those on, well, not always, I don't know, but, PBS.
Yes. Yeah, great performances, and the National Theatre films a lot of London.
What do you think about this? I also feel that because of the all of the political climate, the political social climate in this country right now, the polarization. It seems to me, and because I'm a reviewer, I'm in the theater, the music hall, constantly. I'm immersed in it. And so I'm very conscious of the demographics and who's there. But what I notice is that it often occurs to me, this is the only safe place, arts and sports, where you can have a community. We're all focused on the same thing. No one knows your politics. You don't know who's on the left, you don't know who's on the right, but it doesn't matter. And it's like, it's still the best escapism around.
Well, we were talking about that actually, maybe yesterday or the day before, that one of the beautiful things that theater does, and studies have been done on this, that when you bring an audience together, their breathing and their heartbeats start to line up. And the beauty of that is, you're right. You don't know who you're sitting next to. You may not know their politics. You may not know their background. But for this 90 minutes or 2.5 hours, however long that the show may be, there is a community that is being built.
Yep. Yeah, much like Destination TV in the old days.
Yes. Yeah.
When Little Richie was born and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about one of the big reasons you're on this show is let's talk about Come From Away. And I mentioned that I saw it on Broadway, and I saw it again here at a touring company came through here, and I just love that. I just love that piece. And the writing and the acting that I saw, just the staging, it was just it really. I would see it. Well, I'm going to see it again. I'm going to see your production, and knowing that you're going to put your own stamp on it or your own spin, I can't wait. But tell me about your production. And for those who don't know it, I encourage you. You're on a computer, on your phone, Google it. But so let's talk about what's it about.
Yeah, well, the Come From Away is inspired by the events of September 11th, and when 38 planes were diverted to a small little Canadian town called Gander, which used to have one of the biggest international airports. And so there used to get a lot of activity, but the airport had slowed down, was actually in talks of being torn down. And thank the gods, they didn't ever tear this airport down, because when September 11th happened, like I said, 38 planes were diverted to this town of, I think, 7,000 or 9,000. And 9,000 and 7,000 passengers from all over the world were suddenly stranded in Gander. And the entire community of Gander said, let's step up. Let's help them out. We don't know them. We don't know where they're from. We don't speak their language. We don't know where they're going. but let's help them. And that is what our story is about. Our story is about humanity and stepping up when others need help. And it's not only a celebration of what we call the come from aways, all those that came from all over the world, but really a celebration of the locals in Gander who gave up their homes and welcomed strangers in. And it chronicles about 4 or 5 days after September 11th until the airways were opened up again and people were able to fly home. And there are 12 actors who play about 75 different characters. They all play local Gander folk, and then they all play various people from around the world. So it's sort of an actor's dream in a character actor's dream in that, I mean, there's one of our actors, he plays the character, his main character is Oz. He's the local policeman in Gander. And he, I think, tops out at 8 characters over the course of the show.
I love that.
And there's one page where on one page alone, he plays 3 different people. And it's written in such a way that he speaks as one character, he sits down, and over the course of 2 other characters having dialogue, he changes a hat and then steps back up and is the second character. And then there's a crossover where somebody has a little speech, and while that person is crossing over in that speech, he puts on a different hat and stands up and is his third character. So just the puzzle piece of that is a challenge. But then over the course of the story, we go from a diner to an airplane to a bus to a customs line at the airport, back onto the plane, to 2 buses, to a community center, so we are, not only are the characters shifting, but we then have to shift location to location to location using just 12 chairs.
Yep. I remember, it's really a piece for one's imagination.
Yes, and that's what I love about it. We and the design of our particular show, I love ensembles, and I love when a group of actors can come together, or a group of storytellers can come together and bring something to life in a beautiful and imaginative way.
Well, that's an ideal piece for you. You're yourself an actor, and I happen to think, as a reviewer and an actor myself, that some of the best directors are former actors. They've been in the trenches. They understand you.
Absolutely.
They know how to get the best from you. If they have a one-up over folks who've not been the old thing, if you don't, I don't know what it is. If you don't do it, you teach it, whatever. But
sure.
Yeah. So it must be a joy for you to work with colleagues with that kind of talent.
It's what I think is so fun about it is, as you said, it does give me a little leg up, and it gives me I can tell when an actor is starting to get a little frustrated, because I have been there.
Yep.
And so it's very easy to say, okay, let's take a break, or let's take a step back, or let me find another way in that really supports that particular actor.
So I don't know how IRT works. Do they use casting directors? Did you have a hand in the casting at all?
Yes and yes. This was a very interesting process. Usually there is a casting office that IRT does use, based out of New York, and then they always have a fantastic pool of local actors here in Indianapolis.
I know most of them.
Yes, and so they IRT will do a local round of auditions, and then there is always a session in New York with the New York casting office. Now, with this particular piece, and because of the ensemble nature of it, because of the heart of it, in early meetings with Ben, the artistic director, I said, You know, I have some folks in my back pocket. I have some actors that I work with on a regular basis that I think are so right for this, and I think have the right energy and the right heart for this, that I would love to uh, offer. We had those actors put themselves on tape, and they ended up joining the cast. So there are 4 actors that I've worked with previously that are in the company. Our music director, who I have worked with previously, had a couple that she said, these folks are perfect match for the 4 that we've already found. So there are 2 that she knew that joined our company. There are 2 local actors that fit the Hannah Embry and Brett Mutter.
Yes. Excellent actors.
Both just wildly fantastic, and were, again, perfect fits for this ensemble that we were building. And then the few remaining that we had, we went to the New York casting office. So this particular show, again, was a little different. I brought some folks. Angie Benson, our music director, brought some folks. Ben and IRT brought some folks. And then the New York casting office filled in the blanks. And we have, I mean, I walked in on day 1 and I was like, I'm so excited to finally have everybody together. And by the end of day 1, I was sort of in love with them all. It's a perfect company of ensemble.
Just gives me chills. I mentioned before we talked all the things we have in common, all the hats I wear, and as the director, I mean, when I hear that, I think, oh gosh, this guy is so lucky.
Very lucky, because this isn't always the case, but it speaks to IRT, and it speaks to, you know, the way, the support that they give and the way they run this industry.
And you know, and we in Central Indiana are going to be the beneficiaries of this show, and I really encourage people listening that this is one you do not want to miss. And you know, it's you know, one thing I just want to share and ask you what your thoughts are around this thing. You know, that event drew a lot of attention, a lot of press, because people were in their homes scared to death and traumatized by what happened still from 9/11.
Yes.
One trauma following another, right?
Yes.
And then to see this piece, it was so heartwarming, and just, I mean, I remember thinking, it made me really emotional because of the humanity. I mean, making lemon out of lemonade, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And that these people that they would do this, it just gave me so much hope. And you know, and so to bring it back, it's, you know, it's timeless, hopefully, because it has such a lesson to teach us. But you know, I also think about, and I think you'll remember this too. We had this honeymoon period when everybody was walking around kind and generous, and then we reverted to our old ways and became mean-spirited and just, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? And it just recalled for me a really hopeful, warm-hearted time that you know, that when it came out at the right time because people were still healing, right?
Absolutely. And that is really, I think you nailed it. You said hope a couple times. And that is the wish, is that people, audiences will walk out and feel a little hopeful and feel a little kinder and hopefully look strangers in the eye. You know, it's so interesting. I think it's so easy to walk down the street and just look away from the people that we pass on the street. And if this story inspires folks to, as they're walking down the street, connect with a stranger and just say hello and smile.
Yeah,
that's the beginning of change right there. And yes, go ahead.
I was just saying, what is that charming little quote about something about kindness. I'm trying to think of it, whatever. But yeah, I'm on social media a lot. I have to use it for all my work and all, but
Sure.
I enjoy Facebook because in real time, people often express from their heart what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and that's the part I really, it has its negatives, it's got a lot of positives, but I know that people right now are really, really struggling with this low level anxiety going on, because of what's
Yeah.
happening in the world, free floating anxiety is what it's called.
Yes.
And we're struggling to find some joy and happiness. And that for me is when theater like this can do that, even for how long is the piece? 2 hours?
No, it is. We did our first run through yesterday, and our first run through, which had a couple little stumbles in it as expected, was an hour and 43 minutes.
Okay.
And so I think when we're up and grooving, it is going to be about an hour 37, an hour 40 minutes. But I got to tell you, I was sitting there watching it, and once it starts, it does not stop. We got about halfway through and I looked at my watch and 50 minutes had gone by, and it felt like 15 minutes
Well,
had gone
people's
by.
attention spans are such, that these days, and because of the internet and all, but I recall this piece, and I need to go back and read my review, but the pace was, yeah, I wanted more. Isn't that what you want in
Yes.
the theater?
Yeah.
Leave them wanting more.
Yeah. It is, but it truly, it's like a train or a
Yeah.
plane in this case. It starts, it takes off, and it's all timed to music. It's all
Yeah,
underscored.
about the music, remind me of the music. I mean, I know that I really love the music, but frankly, it's not memorable. I mean, we're not saying that it wasn't, but it didn't seem to have, things that I was humming that I'm still humming today. But nevertheless, I remember it being just right for that show.
Yeah,
So
it's very inspired. Uh, there is an inspiration of Celtic music to it. There is an inspiration
there
of
you
folk
go.
music to
That's
it.
right.
And some of the instruments that you'll hear a mandolin, you'll hear a fiddle. There is one musician in our 8-person band who is the whistle player, and
Ah,
he's got a rack of 12 different types of whistles and flutes
cool. Who's your
that
music director?
a phenomenal musician named Angie Benson.
Are
She
these all
is
local people, or did you bring them in?
Angie is Angie is based in Washington D.C.
Okay.
She and I met about a year and a half ago doing a production of In the Heights at the Signature Theater in Arlington, Virginia.
Oh
And
gosh. Yeah.
I mean, another great show, right? Like
I'd love to talk to you about that for a half an hour. I
I
love
mean,
that show.
I've done 5 productions of In the Heights,
Really?
and I could do 5 more. It's one of my favorites.
Oh my.
But we have Angie is from out of town. We have a guitar player who is from out of town, and maybe our whistle player from out of town. But the other 5 musicians are all local Indianapolis talent.
Yeah.
So
So
even in the band, you're going to see some local faces.
so your ensemble, you mentioned where they're all from, but I'm sure they've got prestigious credits, and I bet you that I'm sure that they're all triple threats, right?
Absolutely, we've got a large portion of our cast have either toured on national tours or done Broadway shows, and starred in regional productions all over the country. It really is. I mean, I say this, I'm biased, but maybe one of the best casts I have ever had the privilege of being in the room with.
Well, it sounds like it. And as far as you, James, I looked at I looked at your bio and all the work that you've done. And do you have any plans or hopes or dreams that you'll be in New York, directing on Broadway or off Broadway?
I mean, of course, yes. I think I was that kid who in San Diego would camp out for the Tony Awards and would put the
I
VCR
love
tape in
that.
and record the Tony Awards, and then would go back and memorize
You were
the
a real
dances.
theater nerd, weren't you?
Absolutely. So yes, the dream is to be able to direct on Broadway and in New York. And I will also say, as I get older, the dream has really become to do really good, inspiring work. And if it is in New York, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I am loving being in Indianapolis, and this is as fulfilling as anything I've done.
Well, you know what? It sounds like you've really done a great job in regional theater, and that I don't think that people realize that regional theater, the ones who managed to stay open like the IRT for as long as they have, and the Old Globe and the Guthrie and on and on, people don't realize how fortunate they are, and they don't, here's the thing that I try to promote on this show. What about this notion that if you were any good, you'd be in New York? I mean, come on. What I'm trying to teach people, there's good work everywhere. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the beautiful things about today in technology is, I wasn't able to step out of rehearsal to come record this with you in person. So here we are doing it over Zoom, right? And I, as much as I would love to be there with you in person, I think the beauty of our world today is I'm able to be based in San Diego and have a beautiful life out there, and yet collaborate with designers and other artists who are all over the country. And it has opened up opportunity for even casting. Casting sessions now, I'm able to visit, meet actors from Atlanta, from Chicago, from the Pacific Northwest, whereas before, you had to be in New York to be considered.
Yeah.
And now we can be humans and we can live where we are happiest and thrive the best, and then go to other places to work. So, and that has also opened up the opportunity for beautiful, brilliant work to happen outside of Broadway.
From my standpoint as a journalist and broadcaster, Zoom's been pretty good for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gives me an opportunity to talk to people like you, and hopefully you'll promote this podcast and your friends in San Diego will hear it just by getting on their phone. I mean, come on. Who could ever have imagined we would be in this place someday? It just that gives me hope that theater will never die. I worry about public funding for the arts. I worry about all that, but in my heart, I just know that it's part of human nature that we need theater. We need live performance. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 1,000,000%. And I think the funding is always going to be an issue. And yet, I think artists are some of the most resilient folk out there. And, like I said earlier, you can take the theater and the stage away from us.
Yeah.
And we'll find a parking lot to tell a story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think
or grassy or patch of grass.
That's it. That's
like
it.
Back in Greece.
Absolutely, yes. And I think art is also a form of activism. So I'm able to I like to say I'm an activist through my art. And with Come From Away, we are up there telling a story that is pure entertainment and is going to entertain the audience, but it is also telling a story, again, of hope and endurance and stepping up for your fellow man. And that is a message we need right now.
And don't forget, theater has the power to be life-changing. I know that I've seen work during my lifetime that really had a profound effect on my life, and that inspired me in some way. And that can happen, and that's what I love about the arts in general. You know, this has been just great. Thank you so much for this
Oh,
chat.
it's been a pleasure. It's been fun to chat with you.
I hope we'll stay in touch. I mean, I'll follow your career. I'm very interested in what happens to you next, and I hope to get to see more of your work. But before we say goodbye, tell me how people can get tickets. What is the IRT website? I think I know it. IRTlive.org.
IRTlive.org. I believe that is it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna pull it up right now and double
go
check
ahead
that.
And you guys open when? You have previews, but when do you open?
We start previews. We start previews on April 7th. Our official opening night is April 10th. And we run until, I believe, May 10th.
Okay, this show will drop on April 3rd. I want to give it plenty of time for people to hear this and be aware of those dates. And will you be? I know once you direct a show, you stay for like how long are you going to be in town?
I am here and through opening night, and then I head back to San Diego the morning after opening.
Okay, well,
it's always so bittersweet. I always have such a good time,
well,
and then
I'll be there opening night to review, and I'll look for you in the lobby. Let's look for each other because I want to shake your hand.
We will find each other
at the champagne toast afterwards.
Absolutely, we will find each other.
People will be screaming with joy.
I hope so. I believe so. We're on a really good path. I'm really excited.
Okay. Well, again, this has been a pleasure, and thank you again for sharing your time with me. And
Tom, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, and break a leg.
Thank you.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.